some people would suggest Elon Musk lives in a sort of high impact, no nonsense work culture. And that means always being on, always working all hours. And for many, that simply doesn't work. And Elon Musk would say, well, no loss to me. I want the best and the highest quality people working for me. He's ruthlessly aggressive. When he took over Twitter, the first day he walked through the door, he suggested that there were just too many people in there not doing any work and was laying off people super instantly. So this is interesting to see whether or not the chickens are coming home to roost when it comes to Elon, whether his practices aren't compliant with the actual people he wants there. There's been some really high profile staff have moved on from some of his companies. And if you're running 5 of the world's biggest, most important companies, you need trusted lieutenants. You need people to be working for you and supporting you.
Hi, I'm Maddie, Hale, and welcome to the Tech Report. Today I've got Will Guyatt on the show. He is a tech journalist, and there's so much to speak to about what is happening in the tech world. And just a reminder that you can watch us throughout the week on Times Radio's Tech channel. So, Will, thank you so much for joining the Tech Report today.
Yeah, thanks. We're glad to be here.
Let's start off with this big news happening in the tech world. Of course, Electronic Arts, known more as EA, one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, has sold in a $55 billion deal to Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, Silver Lake, and Jared Kushner's Infinity Partners. Can you talk me through this sale? Is it who wins and who loses? I know that quite a few shareholders will be getting a big sum of money.
Yeah, they'll be getting a huge payout. I think gamers are questioning this deal. It's definitely huge for the industry. There is a lot of concern from gamers over who this has been sold to, because we've clearly had a lot of concern over the years about what's going on in Saudi Arabia. And they were accused first of sports washing, trying to cover up human rights issues by kind of really pushing into sport. And gaming is now the next big thing for them. They've really invested massively in esports. I went to Abu Dhabi a couple of years ago, an absolutely insane esports venue that had millions and millions of pounds spent on it. And they didn't even have a strategy on how to use it at the time. They just knew that video games were growing. They were growing as a spectator sport. And that's why the country and the investment vehicles there got really interested in it. And I think buying EA is intriguing because EA has some of the biggest, or has had some of the biggest sports licenses in the world. Its football game, FC 26, is no longer FIFA, but it still has all the licenses of all the world's biggest football clubs. They've got an American football deal. They've got an ice hockey deal. So they've got all of the biggest conventional sports. They make the games for those. They've got licenses for Star Wars. They kind of do all sorts of really big games. And they're one of the largest remaining sort of single third-party suppliers for other companies. Microsoft's been on a massive acquisition spree. And now, somebody else has got their hands on one of the companies that at one point it was rumoured that Apple might be interested in buying Electronic Arts.
Wow. So it's a big deal for one of the biggest gaming companies to be sold off into a private situation.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. I mean, lots of games are developed by private businesses, private organisations. But the best way I can describe this, I truly believe with the clout of this investment vehicle behind it, you'll be seeing video games starring Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise within the next couple of years. I think it's that kind of level of, upping the ante, wanting to prove you're better than all of the other companies in the space. And then there's the speculation about what they do next. Consoles are either US or Japanese designed. There's been some suggestions that Microsoft might want to get out of the games industry or get out of making consoles. So there's every chance that some money from the Middle East could be funding, the next generation of video games and kind of really becoming an interesting centre. It'll be really interesting to see if games like big AAA games start getting developed in the region, because that's something that isn't happening at the moment. And, the UK has a really important role in the creation of video games. So let's see if we see any games companies or maybe even EA opening studios in the Middle East, because they just don't have them at the moment.
And interesting to see Jared Kushner's involved because, of course, him and Donald Trump had that infamous trip to the Middle East earlier in the year. I think it was in July, looking for a few personal investments for Donald Trump and Jared Kushner. So this could have all been done over there with the Saudis. So, Will, just moving on to the Financial Times, they're reporting that Elon Musk is having an employee problem at all 5 of his companies. So this includes Tesla, SpaceX, and his AI company, ex-AI. It's reported that around 140,000 workers have left, citing internal work culture. So can you walk me through this?
Yeah, any Elon Musk story always becomes super interesting and super polarizing. Some people would suggest Elon Musk lives in a sort of high impact, no nonsense work culture. And that means always being on, always working all hours. And for many, that simply doesn't work. And Elon Musk would say, well, no loss to me. I want the best and the highest quality people working for me. He's ruthlessly aggressive. When he took over Twitter, the first day he walked through the door, he suggested that there were just too many people in there not doing any work and was laying off people super instantly. So this is interesting to see whether or not the chickens are coming home to roost when it comes to Elon, whether his practices aren't compliant with the actual people he wants there. There's been some really high profile staff have moved on from some of his companies. And if you're running 5 of the world's biggest, most important companies, you need trusted lieutenants. You need people to be working for you and supporting you. And many would suggest that Elon is a master of having the right people working for him because he simply can't be across absolutely everything that he's trying to do. So losing these people at a time when there's challenges to Tesla, there's some challenges around rockets, although it would appear that SpaceX might be on a more even keel if he's friendly again with Donald Trump. And then you've got concerns across all of his other businesses. So this is a man who is hugely successful, but is also massively exposed. So when stuff starts going wrong or people start leaving, lots of people have a right to raise an eyebrow and say, well, how will this impact the business?
And Will, I wonder if it's because of, first of all, a lot of the staff that are leaving are senior members of staff that Elon Musk would obviously rely on. As you mentioned, he can't be everywhere at one place at one time when he's got this many companies to run, especially when he was even working in the White House. But Elon has an insane work ethic. He constantly talks about how he slept on the floor of the Tesla offices. So I wonder if his work ethic, his expectations of staff is a catalyst for why they're leaving, because they can't keep up with this demand.
There was a picture on X about 18 months ago, I always remember, and it was the side of his bed, and he had 2 Victorian handguns and 2 cans of caffeine-free Diet Coke, and that was like by the side of his bed. So if you're living your life with a Victorian handgun and a caffeine-free Diet Coke, you're living fairly on the edge, and at some stage that has to come home to roost. And if he's always on and always traveling around the world and trying to get hold of his senior leaders at all hours of the night and day, at some point something has to give. And in stuff like AI and in businesses like electric vehicles, there are other companies out there at the moment that want senior leaders, that need guidance, that need the kind of experts that Elon may have wanted. And it's not hard for somebody in one of those really key roles around electric vehicles or rockets or even AI to walk into another company with a huge offer. They're all people, lots of businesses want to hire those kind of key senior people.
Well, on that note, Will, how do you think this will deter employees, top talent, from wanting to work at Elon Musk's companies, especially ex-AI? And I'm sure you've covered this a lot, but there is a hiring war going on in Silicon Valley. We've seen these contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars from Meta, from OpenAI, to bring in the top talent to work in their AI parts of the business. And Elon Musk, he'd come out and said that basically people were knocking down doors to work at ex-AI. But reports like this, where you've got nearly 140,000 people leaving across 5 companies, would surely deter this top talent from wanting work for him.
Well, Elon Musk will always say everything is going his way and everything is rosy and everything is super successful. That has often been the Musk route through life. I think there are places for people in these kind of senior roles to go. I think there is a lot of interest about working with Elon Musk, but I know people who've gone there thinking it can't be as bad as I've seen or I've heard, or these reports must be overstated. And they've not lasted more than 6 to 12 months because the guy is on a different level. Now, that's not criticizing him and saying he's a bad boss, but he's always on. He's able to hyper focus on what he's delivering. And in many ways, and I'm no fan of Elon Musk, he clearly delivers results. He clearly knows how to make his businesses successful.
I mean, you've got to be a certain type of person to be in a position that Elon Musk is. You've got to be a little bit crazy.
Yeah, you've got to be out there. And I think you've got to be always on. And one of the things, I've followed Elon Musk for years, and I wish I had a quarter of an ounce of his success. But I think one of the things that I always find very interesting is Elon Musk has a history as far back as pre-2000 of being in the right place at the right time. He is an expert at leaping into early businesses that need help and support, coming up with ideas that eventually become the concerns of basically the whole of humanity, you know, electric vehicles or how we get off this planet in the future, etc., etc. All of those things that he's been really interested in for 20 plus years. And he got in at the ground up and has built hugely successful companies, you know, multiple hugely successful companies, from PayPal through to, he's the guy now drilling tunnels under Las Vegas. He's got a really varied portfolio, right?
No, I mean, people forget about the Boring Company. He's actually building tunnels in Nashville currently. He's got such a wide portfolio of businesses, Will. But
yeah,
we all know about Elon Musk's $1 trillion compensation package that Tesla put forward a few weeks ago. He's got to reach certain targets, including delivering on EV sales. He's also got to reach certain robot and robot taxi targets. So if he's losing such top talent and not bringing in the top talent that he wants from other AI businesses across the spectrum, how will this, I guess, affect his desire to get this $1 trillion package?
I don't think he'll ever reach that. I think whilst Elon Musk is insanely successful, and anything, I run a risk of anything I ever say being negative about Elon Musk, people will interpret as me being against Elon Musk's way or his ethos. I'm not. I think he's tremendously successful. But if you look at any Elon Musk business, the success, the results, the progress has always been massively overstated. He's been talking about self-driving Teslas being 2 months around the corner for 7 or 8 years. There's been an awful lot of talk about the robots and just exactly how robotic the current robots are, the ones that we're seeing, the ones that are being used and are wowing people, just how close to market they are. He says, we're launching them in a year or so's time. Lots of other people say we just don't see how that's possible. Sometimes Elon Musk surprises and impresses. Sometimes we find ourselves in a position where we're still waiting for things. The Cybertruck, huge success. Everybody thought it was generating tons of interest. They cannot sell them in the US now. They are just simply not moving those vehicles. And at some stage soon, they will just be erased from the history of Elon Musk, because that's just kind of how he works. People always focus on the big successes.
A trial and error of Elon Musk, but at least he's trying things out. Will,
yeah, definitely.
On another note, speaking about kind of, I guess, how politics can affect businesses. Well, we saw that with Elon Musk's White House ambitions and how that affected his businesses, mostly Tesla. But what we've seen is that more than 1.7 million paid subscribers of Disney streaming apps, including Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN, cancelled their memberships during that 6-day period where Jimmy Kimmel was suspended for the comments he made about Charlie Kirk's murder. So, Will, that's a pretty insanely large number of subscribers to cancel their memberships, and I guess a loss of profits.
Yeah, hugely embarrassing. And let's not forget, at the same time, they were launching a brand new ESPN app US-wide. And essentially, the WWE wrestling, which I know to many people sounds like, well, that's a bizarre thing. Wrestling's not a real sport. It's a huge moneymaker for any company that has it. And it was moving from NBC's Peacock to ESPN. And they had their first event on the platform that weekend. And that was right in the middle of people leaving the platform. And the WWE was, they spent huge money, billions of dollars on acquiring the WWE deal to attract people to this new ESPN app. So it would have been a hellish weekend for Disney, because obviously they didn't want to upset the regulator, but but it really has disrupted their plans and set them backwards. And everybody is hugely fickle in these kind of streaming markets. You can cancel most services with a month's notice. And it will be interesting to see just how many of them come back. They find that they can't live without Hulu. They find that they can't live without ESPN for sport. Let's see. The headline number is huge, but it's who comes back, because the market has just become so fragmented. And I think that's the challenge. But people voting and hitting a company like Disney where they know how and know they can. This will have raised attention at Disney and will surely have influenced the decision to bring Kimmel back.
Absolutely. OpenAI, they're building a new video app similar to TikTok that will be a standalone app for AI-generated videos. So will this stand out from other social media platforms, Will, or has there actually been a market for a solely AI video-based app, considering, it's hard for us to even tell what's real and what's fake now?
Maddie, it fills me with dread, because if you look at what's happening with TikTok and Instagram and even YouTube to an extent, they are filled with absolute AI bilge. Over the summer, I was playing with Google's Gemini and some of the video creation tools, and made some random videos that tied into pop culture events in the UK, like Glastonbury. Shoved them up on TikTok thinking nothing less of it, and got like 2 million views for one of them. I am not a social commentator. I am not a video creator, but I was able to create some crap, pardon my language, in 20 seconds that got millions of views. And that's the challenge. Our feeds are now full of this stuff. If OpenAI's platform encourages creativity and doing things in a different way, I'm all for it. But all of these companies are now looking for legitimization in ways that we hadn't previously considered. OpenAI is trying to make hardware with Johnny Ive, the former Apple design genius. Some of the other companies, Perspicuity, all sorts of other people in this space are now looking for ways of, launching a search engine, or launching stuff which is kind of more established in what we would expect from apps and developments that we would have currently. So I think all of these companies will be looking to new routes, and let's see what OpenAI do with that app, because all they have at the moment is a tremendously successful service in ChatGPT. We're not all in love with everything else that they're doing yet.
No, absolutely not. Just finally, Will, one of the big stories in the tech world in the last few weeks is, of course, this update from Apple that they're going to launch a new update to their AirPods that would basically translate live different languages. So you and I could be speaking, you could be speaking Japanese to me. My AirPods are basically translating exactly what you're saying. So this is a serious game changer for traveling and a real positive outcome for AI. I think that obviously, a lot of the older generations are incredibly, a little bit skeptical about AI, but I think this is an example of where it can be cross-generational in how people will perceive it. And the funniest memes have been coming out about how women at the nail salon are no longer safe, no longer able to bitch about about other people. I thought that was hilarious. So has this been in the works for a while, do you think?
Yeah, I always keep saying I'll now finally know what that person on the market in Spain is really saying about me. I think this is a game, like you've said, this is a game-changing use of AI. This is a really, really cool use case. And there's been sort of stuff kicking around like this sort of space, real-time translation, for about the last 5 years or so. They've never quite worked. So Samsung announced a translation tool, which wasn't quite as good as this a couple of years ago on a Galaxy phone. The idea that the earphone, the AirPod, and the phone are working together, and there's sort of an AI model, and there's processing in your headphones which enable this to happen, is an absolute game changer. And I've tested it with somebody speaking in Spanish, and it doesn't get humor, it doesn't get nuance of conversations, but it's a billion miles on from where it is, and you could theoretically go somewhere and you could understand what somebody is saying to you. And later this year, they're launching Korean, Chinese, and Japanese. And those are languages that are notoriously hard for Westerners to speak. And the fact that they can successfully sort of real-time translate them, I think, is an absolute game changer. And I think this is one of these things that's sort of a bit mired in confusion over, it's not coming to the EU immediately because there is concern about data protection and how these things are done. So they're typically Apple has to go through processes with the EU, etc., to roll this out a couple of months after it launches. But if we can get this across Europe in 2026, I guarantee you, once word of mouth positively spreads about this feature, loads of people will be buying AirPods for the first time. If you're a traveller and you like going to sort of different countries, I think this will be a game changer.
Especially if you're a solo traveller. It'd be an absolute game changer. Will Guyatt, thank you so much for joining the Tech Report today.